Welcome to my channel, Veterans Legacy. Tonight, I want you to sit back, dim the lights, and let this story wrap around you like the hum of an aircraft engine at 30,000 feet. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story of heroism. It's a story of memory, of ghosts who never quite leave us, and of a man who thought his service to the skies was long over, until fate pulled him back in with the force of a jet engine. The cabin lights had been turned low, the kind of warm dim that makes everyone on a late-night flight sink deeper into their seats. Flight 287 was somewhere over the Atlantic, slicing through smooth air on its way to D.C. From seat 14A, Elias, Hawk, Jensen leaned back, eyes closed, trying not to think about the last time he'd been this high up. Not in a passenger seat, but behind the controls of an F-18 Super Hornet. He'd been retired for almost 9 years, though he hated that word. Retired. As if the sky stops calling just because a date on a paper tells you to hang up the flight suit. As if the memories stop. As if the names of the friends you lost fade out like contrails in a cold sky. Hawk pressed a hand to the faint ache in his ribs, an old injury from a rough landing that never healed quite right. He shifted, adjusting to the civilian life he still didn't fit into. He was heading home after visiting an old squadron buddy, the last of the team still in the hospital. Time was not kind to warriors. His eyes flicked to the window. Nothing but stars. Nothing but dark. Then came the sound. Not the usual groan of the aircraft. Not turbulence. This was different. Sharp. Metallic. Wrong. A vibration trembled through the floor. People around him looked up. A baby stopped crying mid-wail, sensing something in the air adults couldn't articulate. The captain's voice came on, tight but trying to sound calm. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor systems issue. Please remain seated. Systems issue. Hawk sat forward. He'd heard that tone before. Not in commercial aviation. In combat. His instincts switched on like a weapons system coming to life. He loosened his seat belt and stood. A flight attendant quickly approached. "Sir, please." Hawk didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I'm a former Navy pilot," he said quietly. "Your captain needs help. Now." Something in his eyes, maybe the steadiness, maybe the unshakable focus, made her pause, then nod. She led him briskly toward the cockpit as passengers murmured behind him. When the cockpit door opened, Hawk stepped into a world he thought he had left behind. Flashing warnings, alarms pulsing like a heartbeat, and 2 pilots fighting a machine determined to fall from the sky. The captain turned, eyes widening. "Jensen. Elias Jensen. Hawk Jensen." Hawk froze. "Do I know you?" The co-pilot spoke through gritted teeth, hands gripping the yoke. "Sir, you were the reason I joined the Navy. Your rescue mission over Kandahar. I wrote a paper on it in flight school." Hawk swallowed hard. "Right now, we focus. What's the status?" The captain gestured at the screens. "We've lost hydraulic pressure in System A and B. Backup systems failing. We're losing control of the rudder." "And communications?" Hawk asked. "Static," the co-pilot replied. "We can't get a clean signal." Hawk slid into the jump seat behind them, his mind already racing. This plane held 164 souls. He wasn't about to let them drop into the ocean without a fight. "All right," Hawk said, voice steady. "We're going to get her down. Tell me what still works." As they ran through the remaining systems, Hawk directed them with the same calm certainty he'd once used mid-dogfight. His voice cut through the alarms, clear and controlled. But the plane was losing altitude. Fast. The captain struggled with the controls. "We're descending at 1,800 feet per minute. If we can't level, we'll level," Hawk said. "You focus on pitch. I'll monitor system pressure." Minutes passed like heartbeats. Sweat beaded on brows. The plane shuddered violently. Then, for a moment, the aircraft leveled, but something else caught Hawk's ear. A faint rumble. Familiar. Jet engines. But not civilian. Military. The co-pilot glanced out the window, then gasped. "Sir, you're going to want to see this." Hawk leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Out of the darkness, 2 sleek forms appeared on either side of the aircraft, their lights blinking with calculated precision. F-35s. The Air Force's elite. They flew in tight formation, steady as guardians. One of them banked slightly, revealing its tail number. But what made Hawk's breath catch wasn't the aircraft. It was the way the pilot inside it tilted his helmet, a subtle salute, then held up a small placard against the glass. On it, written in thick black letters, Hawk. Hawk stared, stunned. Why would they know my call sign? The captain's face softened. Sir, you're a legend. The Air Force and Navy both study your missions. They've probably had your call sign memorized since training. The radio crackled. A young, confident voice came through. Flight 287, this is Reaper 1. We've got you. We're escorting you to safer airspace. The captain answered, Reaper 1, we've lost hydraulics. Trying to maintain level flight. Reaper 1 responded, copy that. Hawk Jensen aboard your aircraft, correct? Hawk blinked. How the hell? The F-35 pilot laughed through the comms. Sir, your story's the reason half of us joined up. We'd never let you go down. For the first time in years, something in Hawk's chest loosened. The sky had not forgotten him. The next generation had not forgotten him. But the crisis wasn't over. The aircraft pitched hard right, alarms blaring. Passengers screamed from the cabin. The last backup hydraulic line had ruptured. Hawk grabbed the captain's shoulder. We need to switch to manual trim and use engine thrust for directional control. Old school, pre-digital. That's nearly impossible, the co-pilot whispered. Hawk's eyes hardened. Nearly, not entirely. The captain nodded. They worked together, fingers flying, adjusting trim wheels that hadn't been touched in years. The plane responded sluggishly but responded. The F-35's tightened formation, communicating wind conditions and altitude readings real-time, giving Hawk and the pilots clarity they no longer had on board. Minutes stretched into a lifetime. Finally, the coast appeared on radar. Reaper 1's voice came through again. You're lined up for emergency approach. You've got this. Bring them home, Hawk. The runway lights glowed like a path carved from the heavens. The captain took a deep breath. Hawk, you ready? Let's land this bird, Hawk murmured. The descent was brutal. Each adjustment felt like wrestling a titan. The trim wheel burned against Hawk's palm as he fought to keep the nose aligned. Passengers prayed, cried, held hands. The wheels touched down. The plane bounced, skidded, screeched. And then, it slowed, stopped. Silence. A slow, powerful inhalation filled the cockpit as though the aircraft itself had taken its first breath after drowning. Then the cabin erupted with sobs, laughter, and applause. The captain leaned back, shaking. We just landed a plane with no hydraulics. The co-pilot looked at Hawk with awe. Sir, you saved 164 lives. But Hawk only stared forward at the runway lights, shimmering slightly through the moisture in his eyes. I didn't do it alone, he whispered. The Air Force. Crews sprinted toward the plane as the F-35s did a low flyby in tribute. And Hawk felt something he hadn't felt in years. Belonging. Purpose. Honor. One of the young pilots who'd escorted them approached later, shaking with adrenaline. Sir, it's an honor. My father served with you. He always said you were the reason he came home. Hawk swallowed hard. He remembered the father. He remembered the mission. He remembered the promise he'd made long ago. Bring them home. Tonight, he had kept that promise again. As emergency crews guided passengers away, several stopped to thank him personally. Parents clutching children, elderly couples, terrified travelers whose lives had been handed back to them. Hawk stood quietly, humbled. Later, when the night settled and most people had left, Hawk stepped aside, staring up at the stars. The sky no longer felt like a stranger. It felt like a welcome. As if the heavens themselves whispered, "We remember you, Hawk." As if the jets still overhead hummed a quiet salute. And for the first time in a long time, Hawk Jensen allowed himself to feel something he'd buried deep. Pride. Not for the glory, not for the applause, but for the simple truth that he had been given one more chance. To bring people home. If this story moved you, if it made you feel the weight of sacrifice, the power of courage, and the legacy of those who serve the skies, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. And this is Veterans Legacy, where every hero's story finds its sky.